Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including a BoJack Horseman, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Sam Quattro.
Hello.
April Collins.
Hi there.
And Indy Potter.
Hello.
It is our last BoJack Horseman Season 5 podcast. We are getting into the final two episodes of the season today, the Showstopper and the Stopped Show. We've been covering all of BoJack Horseman Season 5. We initially did a season-long recap podcast right the weekend it came out, and so we've been going slowly through the rest of the episodes now. And we have reached the end here. We're going to get into the big last two episodes. We'll start off, no point of a non-spoiler section since it's the end of the season. So I'm just going to say, unilateral. Make sure you've seen all of season 5 of BoJack Horseman here. Spoilers for the entire season right away. Find, the rest of our podcast, subscribe to our BoJack feed, at, overlyanimated.com/iTunes, search for BoJack Overly Animated, or on YouTube, youtube.com/overly animated. We've already talked about these episodes a little bit in the recap season-long podcast, but we've gotten some more time to sit on the season here. Sam, what do you think of these two episodes?
Probably at least two of my favorite episodes of the season. I've really enjoyed the Showstopper, as I have many episode 11s throughout the entire run of the show. I think it's not as strong as Time's Arrow, obviously, or That's Too Much Man, but, it's good. I was really feeling it within my heart of hearts. Super into it, super into the musical sequence, super into the drama, the paranoia. Very #relatable. The Stop Show, on the other hand, it kind of falls in line with all the other last episodes of all the different seasons, where we're kind of trying to tie up everybody's loose ends. Princess Carolyn gets her porcupine baby, and, that's the thing. And Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane and Pickles, and who gives a fuck about that? Most importantly, I was really happy with the end. I was happy with BoJack going to rehab and sort of owning up to his shittiness in a way that wasn't like a public takedown or something that would have caused even more attention to himself. So yeah, I enjoyed both episodes very much.
Nice. Okay. April, what do you think of these two episodes?
I also enjoyed these two episodes a whole lot. It's sort of interesting take at mental health and everything like that. And they kind of coincide very nicely, especially with Showstopper and how his paranoia and everything is just sort of intermixing. And it's I like that he has the flashes of reality, but then it's intermixed with his character Filbert. So it's just really I really enjoyed that sort of intertwining of the two. And then it's one of my favorite quotes of the show. But it comes from Diane, which everyone knows is one of my least favorite characters, but I don't even care. And it's where she's talking about dumpster fires. So, because I was wow, I relate to this so much. And that's exactly that sums up my feelings of the world. But I really enjoyed them. I think they were my two favorite episodes of the whole season, if I'm honest. So
two favorite of the whole season. Nice. Okay, good stuff. We'll get into some of why later. Andy, what do you think of the last two episodes here?
I really liked them. I really thought they were. I really liked how solid they were. I think that sometimes BoJack has an issue where the last two episodes, the second to last episode, is really solid, and the last one kind of just is just we're not really sure where BoJack will go, and this one does the same thing. We're not really sure where BoJack will go, but they're kind of separated. An event happens in the second to last episode, and it's the fallout in the last episode. And this seems to me the best example of them flowing together in a way that's cohesive. It feels they feel more connected than they usually do, is what I'm trying to say. And I like that. I do think I'm bad with the names of the episode, but the second to last episode is much better than the Stop Show. And because I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier in other episodes of the podcast, where they were going away from the B plot structure that they were doing, and I really like that in this drug episode here. And it's just so good. I really love this framing device where we're going back and forth of whether we're in the show or not, and I really like that a lot. But then in this in the final episode, we get kind of the normal structure we have. It's a little more focused on BoJack, which is not unusual, but it's still jumping around to other people's plots at the same time. There are some really good lines in both these in this episode still, though. And it's just there's some really funny stuff here. I really love the sex robot stuff at the end. I really like the commentary from Gina in the interview about wanting to not wanting BoJack to tell the truth. I thought that was very on the nose, but still really, really heavy. And I'm definitely interested where they're going to go. I'm kind of on a cliff here with BoJack, where we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. But I'm interested to see where we're going to go next season.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So I've had an interesting experience rewatching this season for the podcast here, because we did the immediate reactions with our first podcast, and that was a different format we've done before with BoJack and with most other Netflix shows, where we all just binged it right away. We gave our immediate thoughts, and I think looking back, we missed some. I think that misses out on some things. So I'm wondering, is BoJack even a good binge show? I've had a much better experience with this season, just watching it slowly over time and rewatching episodes, kind of the way we did handled last season's coverage. But anyway, all that's to say, I think this season is really great, and I'm much higher on it rewatching it this time, and that includes these two episodes. I appreciated the Showstopper a lot more on second rewatch. I still think it's the weakest of the episode 11s, the 5 episode 11s, but I think it's the third best episode of the season. I think it's really good, and I've always been a big fan of the Stop show, but I think what stood out to me this time was less the overtly comedic moments, although those are still great, but a lot of the culmination of the season-long arcs, which really worked for me this time. I think originally I thought, okay, BoJack, it doesn't seem consequential, him not even remembering the strangling, but I think if you piece it together with some of the big speeches from the season, then there's some obvious and pretty meaningful themes there that I want to get into here. So I think it all comes together really well. I think it's the most consistent season of the show. I think it's the highest average episode quality. It's still missing those huge, other than Free Churro, it's missing those huge top tier episodes, but it's this season's just really phenomenal, and I'm very high on these two episodes, and I want to get into a lot of stuff from Showstopper here, because I've tried to figure out what this balloon means. This has been my thing all season. And I think I don't know. I think I have the answer here, and I feel it's a little bit more obvious. So I don't know. Maybe I messed up not getting it the first time, but also that's what happens when you watch every episode in a day. Okay. So the balloon is BoJack's, the shitty things BoJack has done in the past, and his past, horrible, actions. In the episode, it says that it's sneaking up on him or something. We literally specifically say that, and then cut to the balloon. And I think that this season is BoJack trying to be a better person. That stood out to me a lot more this season. People tell BoJack to try to be a better person. In episode 1, Princess Carolyn tells BoJack this time, be the guy on set that everybody likes, pretend to be the shitty guy in the show, but then actually be a good person. And in episode 10, then in this climactic scene with Diane, BoJack talks about how he hasn't remembered every single shitty thing he's done while high or drunk. And he thinks he's the victim and the girls wouldn't even remember. And that stood out a lot more, having seen, obviously, these last 2 episodes. So I think the big theme with BoJack this season is this is the season where BoJack's trying to be better. And the balloon represents, the fact that he can't do it, that, he's being, his shitty things coming up. And in the end of the musical number, it smacks him, hits the screen, and it's okay, it's here. BoJack being a terrible person again, and then cut to the sequence of him strangling Gina. So, I think this has been a season of BoJack spiraling down after trying to be good. Him giving, he starts the season with these lines on his bottle of alcohol, and him only giving a little portion every day. Later, we hear him say that it's 1 bottle a day. It's consequently getting worse and worse in terms of drinking, and we obviously see his pill problem come to the forefront in episode 9 as well. So he's getting worse with not being with being under the influence, and also just and how that relates to just him affecting other people in terrible ways that he doesn't even realize. So all of that really, that's kind of my thesis for the season. I think all that really came together a lot better on rewatch here. Sam, what do you think of my take here on that?
I mean, it's a good take, admittedly. Dylan was warning us that he had a lot of takes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think these aren't the hot takes. I have some hot takes.
These aren't
later,
the hot takes. I agree with that take.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think, it is all about BoJack being a better person, and I think you can tell, especially with the Showstopper, because there are moments when he stops himself and says, "Oh yeah, like you need to be better for Gina." Blah 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 blah. And I feel that. I understand. It's a thing. TM.
Yeah. April, what do you think about any of this?
Yeah, it's definitely not a hot take. Sorry, Dylan. Because I definitely agree. Like it's something that we've sort of seen throughout the entire season is him just trying to be like this better person. Like we even start off the season with him like agreeing to do the show, like Princess Caroline's show, because he's like, hey, like, even though I didn't say I would do it, like, I'll do it for you because like, I know that would help you out kind of thing. But again, like as the season sort of continued on, we just see him just like progressively get worse and worse and worse. And I think that it's like, it takes a lot of like being self-aware of him, like recognizing like, especially as we go into the stopped show where he's just like, I don't even remember any of these things. So like how like I'm just as much of a victim. And it's like, wow, no, you are not. So, but then he has to sort of come like face to face because he's never really had a consequence of his like terrible actions before. And you kind of get that with him. And I can't think of what's her name.
Gina in the right in the interview.
Well, no, you get it with Gina for sure, but like you kind of like feel it previously with his friend because he even like circles back around to that because he realizes like what he had done was like a terrible thing, but it's only up until this point with like Diane like sort of almost like throwing it in his face and like making him accountable for his actions. And then with Gina, like he gets the full like you're responsible for this and now like you're dealing with that kind of situation. So because everything else up until that, like he never had to deal with it. Like no one was there saying like, hey, you're the reason for this until like Diane and Gina came along in this season, and they, Diane constantly pressing him like, what happened with, Penny, what happened in New Mexico? Like, why have we never talked about this? And then of course him, strangling Gina on set. So I don't think your take is all that hot. So that, and I think
what does that even mean? I don't think it's all that hot. You're saying you agree. You're saying you agree. That's all you're saying.
But it's not a hot take. So
yeah, no, it's a straight reading of the themes of the season. Yeah,
it's very straight.
Andy, what are your thoughts on the balloon metaphor? Where are you with that?
I agree with most of what you said, Dylan, but I think there's also a part of the balloon that we're missing here, in that it's a big part of this balloon is that other people can see it besides BoJack. Other people can see his faults, and that's kind of where we end the season. The whole world sees that BoJack strangled someone. It's not. I mean, they lie that he didn't do it on purpose, but I think a lot of people in their heart of hearts know that he choked her, know that he choked his co-star on the show, and that's a big part of the season. 'Cause, I mean, was it the second to last or the last episode that started with Margot Martindale seeing the balloon? I forget.
Was the third to last episode.
Sorry,
third
to last.
Yeah.
For some reason.
But I think that's a big part of it because it's everyone seeing that BoJack's not good. Because even though we see how bad he is, the general populace doesn't really see that much. They got the book from Diane at the end of season 1, but that just made him seem more sympathetic to them. It didn't actually make him seem worse in the public eye. But this event, this time, BoJack now is the bad guy, at least to a lot of people when they see this video. And that's kind of different than what we've seen so far. And I think that's the point of the balloon, that his bad thing is crushing down on him, but now that balloon's set free into the whole world too, for everyone else to see.
Yeah, maybe that explains why character actress Margot Martindale could see it in that scene. I really still have no idea what it was doing in the beginning of the episode. Very weird. I figured out a lot more of the season. I still don't really get that, but that's interesting. I think a big theme of this last episode is accountability, and that's part of his discussion with Diane. And Diane tells him, no one really is going to hold you accountable for this. You have to hold yourself accountable. So I think maybe even though everyone can now see the balloon, if that's a thing, I still think it's still most important that he can see it and he recognizes it and he holds himself accountable, which he does by going to rehab at the end of the season.
Oh, definitely.
Dude, why does the big metaphor have to be a big, ugly balloon?
That's kind of nice.
Because think about it. It's like the ugly version of himself that he has to come face to face with.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
no one looks good in balloon form.
Yeah,
could have been like a cardboard cutout or some other promotional material.
No, like the moment when that really just came together for me was when it smacks into the screen at the end of the musical number and like breaks the glass. And that's like, okay, and now and then we get into the strangle stuff. Like, okay, yeah, this is how it all came together like that. Let's get into episode 11 here. Because I think this is one of the most talked about episodes of the season. High regard in this placement, and I think there's a lot of incredible stuff at the end of the episode. I would kind of say like the first half of the episode is a little bit pedestrian, and then the second half is really good.
It picks up as it goes along.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think there's parts of like he talks to Kyle, Charlotte's husband, which I didn't really get much out of that scene.
Kyle, I love him.
It was so awkward.
Yeah, but like I don't know what that's doing in this episode, but in general, I think
that's him like circling back around to him being shitty in the past. So
he's like exploring things
awkward,
he's done.
Yeah, as awkward and as like cringeworthy as that whole conversation is, like that's what I got out of it was the fact that like he's still, I guess, like, am I actually a terrible person? Like, did I actually ruin this person's life? Like, I need to know so I can make myself feel better. But that's not why you should do things, BoJack.
I get that concept. And we also mentioned Netflix at the end of that scene. Okay, now we don't need to talk about it anymore.
He has a Scottish accent, though.
Yeah, it was bad. Okay. Yeah, the framing device of the scene is we intersperse between a Filbert and BoJack's life, very much a culmination of this theme that we've been getting at this whole season, where Filbert is like a representation of BoJack in a lot of ways, in a meta way, in terms of like commenting on how people view BoJack and other characters of that ilk. In what we got into in episode 10 with Diane, of like people shouldn't sympathize with this terrible character, and then also just it paralleling BoJack's life, as we got into a lot in episode 1. By the way, looking back on episode 1, I think it's like really, really strong as a premiere of the season. It kicks off like all these themes, and it ties in incredibly well to these last few episodes. I recommend rewatching that episode. It played a lot better for me. We cut between this. We start off the episode in full Filbert mode. We see the "What Time Is It Right Now" original series logo. We get the previously on
the entire opening,
the opening credits, and then we get the first scene too. Yeah. Andy, would you watch Filbert as a show? No. April?
I hate these types of shows.
I'd probably watch like the first 2 episodes.
If it popped up on Netflix, yeah, you'd watch you'd try it, right?
I'd try it. Like some shows I'll give it, depending on like the length of the season, determines how many episodes I'd give it. So if it's like a 10 episode season, I'd probably watch like the first 2 and be like, okay, like what's going on with this? Okay. And then I'd make a judgment call from there.
Okay. That's a good philosophy. It's we spent a lot of time in Filbert with this episode.
Looks terrible.
Yeah, Sam, what do you think of the dialogue on the show? It's very on the nose bad.
Best dialogue.
I hate these kinds of shows where it's like, oh, it's so gritty and fucking police procedurals. Like, who gives a flying fuck about that kind of shit?
I'd probably stop watching when we get to the light bulb scene, honestly. I'd probably get there and be like, what is this show? And just be done.
And the dialogue is super on the nose, and the Flip's use of literally where it doesn't even make sense.
That was great.
My favorite line is where he says, or what is it? Gina's character says, "I know how much you didn't want him to be dead."
Yeah, to be murdered. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one. I like the this time it's personnel, and then we explain that.
That was perfect.
Yeah, I like the landline, and then he like hits him with the landline later. Sam, I actually think this is kind of a parody of Mr. Robot to a large extent. Unfortunately,
I mean, you have the Mr. Robot there already. Why wouldn't you make a parody of it if you have the actor?
Yeah, Mr.
I know
Robot
his name
created
is Elliot.
by Mr. Robot, and yeah, just the whole thing with Fritzen being a ghost and not existing is a twist we get into. Yeah, all of that seems very Mr. Robot.
Actually, I thought about it more. If all the commercials were Todd, I would watch this show.
Okay, yeah, watch it
Just for the commercials.
Does what's time is it right now.com have commercials in between? Like Netflix doesn't have commercials, so did that play in the middle of the episode?
I guess.
I'm thinking
that's what,
it might
that was
be
my
like a cross between like YouTube and like Netflix.
Yeah, like some
Hulu
streaming
has
sites have like
commercials. Maybe it's like Hulu.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
things like Hulu have stuff in there.
That's even more hilarious if they're trying to make fun of Hulu, which is a competitor.
They're making fun of themselves for sure.
Or no, maybe they're making fun of Amazon because it's just a site that did something else, but now
a site
it does
that functions
this.
as something else. Yeah, I agree. It could be that. But yeah, just this glimpse into Filbert I thought was very fun. And yeah, we're seeing the first episode of season 2, and then we're in the beginning of the episode, we're firmly can tell what's real life, what's Filbert. We're 2 months after the premiere in real life, and one device that carries over though between the two, which I love, is Filbert's monologuing. BoJack does that,
and then BoJack does it.
Yeah, BoJack does it for himself in real life too, and it seems very seamless because he monologues on the show. But yeah, I think that's a great way to represent BoJack's like losing his grip on reality and what's the show and what's not. I think that works spectacularly. Here's the line: "Something lurking just beyond the horizon," and we cut to the balloon. That was the most the show ever commented.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not like overt in that it's his past self, it's just something's lurking there. And in real life, Gina now is this big star, after season 1 of Filbert has premiered, which I thought that was great seeing all these moments with Gina happy, and of course it all goes wrong very soon. But I
think it's very sweet because he even mentions he's like normally like he's like she's like really blown up, and I'm not even bitter. I'm just happy for her, and I'm like, wow, look at you being a real human being, like or a normal person. I don't know.
Yeah. This BoJack's losing his grip. He starts solving this mystery in the show of the murders, and then he's trying to solve this mystery of the note in real life, and that's when we really start splicing back and forth. We talked about Todd forgetting to buy ads as president of ad sales, that he didn't know that was in his purview.
I laughed so hard with that play. I don't know. They did Todd so good this season. He was perfect.
Andy, are you a fan of Oopsie Got a Poopsie?
Yes, it's incredible.
I don't really understand. I don't know. But yeah, that was good. That Todd, because we never. What is Todd even doing this whole season? Like,
he has a job.
He's president of ad sales.
Yeah, he's sitting around in an office doing nothing.
Yeah,
it's like he's at school. He thought he was doing great. He gets to the final exam. He realizes, oh no, I learned nothing this whole year.
What made him realize he didn't buy ads? Like, what clued him into that?
Probably he watched the premiere and said, "Oh, there's supposed to be an ad here. Oh, that was me."
Yeah, I want more on that.
Who knew that the president of ad sales?
He's solving these murders in the show versus a lot of like strangling puns, by the way, on Filbert in that episode, and this note. But he says this whole show is designed to reveal my secrets and destroy me. We get the licensing stuff, and then this all leads into kind of the meat of the episode with this Gina's musical number. We're like in Todd's office at one point, and like the walls drop, and then we're kind of in this surreal sequence of Gina tells him, "You don't want that for everything to be fine. How dreadfully boring." That's another big
true.
That's another big clue into this theme of this is all leading to BoJack spiraling into hurting people again. You don't want that for everything to be fine, Gina says. And
what's life without a little drama, really?
Yeah, but not good for BoJack. That's because his drama involves hurting everyone around him. And yeah. So Sam, what's your big highlights from this musical number?
Musical number. Okay. So I don't really remember much of the actual song.
It's called Don't Stop Dancing Till the Curtains Fall.
Yeah, I know. And it's like going through BoJack's life and being like, oh, in French, mon frère. Yeah. Anyway, I noticed that in the beginning, when like all these important people in BoJack's life are being played by actors and actresses, the only one that remotely looked like the person it was supposed to be was Herbs.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't know. I really did enjoy it. I know I just watched it like 20 minutes ago, well, more than 20 minutes ago, but I don't remember anything from it. But I remember it like hitting for me. But when I first watched it, I was like, oh, this is kind of weird and like out of place, and like it's just a drug-fueled fantasy number, pink elephants, whatever. It was nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's very surreal, so it's hard to pinpoint specifics. There's the big BoJack letters that Gina's dancing on top of. There's a parallel to the end of season 3 with the Sarah Lynn stuff and with the background. There's his mom in the coffin.
Oh yeah, she dies.
There's all that kind of stuff. April, what do you think of the musical number? I
think it's kind of like an interesting way to sort of break to drop the curtain between like his like hallucinating and like snapping him back into reality. I thought it played into like the rest of the episode very well, especially because like they had talked about with the first season of Filbert, you know, like Gina having like a song or whatever, and then like here we are in the second season and she's a big star. And they're like, of course she has to have like the musical number. And then it just like sort of like, it's like the reality and the like illusion are like dancing in the mix until again, you know, it breaks and everything is downhill from there.
Yeah. Andy, what's your take here?
I think this is the most successful drug sequence of the entire show.
Really?
No. Let me explain. Let me explain.
So the other prominent one is the season 1's episodes 11.
Yeah,
right?
Downer ending was my favorite episode of BoJack.
I think I'm not saying this is a better episode. I think this is a better representation of BoJack being on drugs for the viewer, because I really like, instead of just like jumping around like we did in Downer ending, like we just kind of like jumped ahead in time, like we lost time. This actually feels like BoJack is high and in another world right now. He is completely not in control of what he's doing. And I really like that about this dance sequence. I really like this about the entire episode. And specifically in this dance sequence, we really get this idea that BoJack is doing things and he's in control of his body, but he doesn't know the context of what he's doing. And I really enjoy that facet of what's going on. It's really powerful, and though Downer ending is really good, I just think the way they portrayed the drug use here is, I like the way they did it here much better.
Nice. Yeah, there's a lot of parallels to Downer ending, I think, with this episode. The kind of surreal sequence into deep stuff. I guess that's a lot of the show, but yeah, I think this is just really successful, and I love how the ending, like the smack in the screen, and then how it leads right into this next sequence of these two intertwining scenes of Gina confronting BoJack both in Filbert, and then in real life she finds the pills. In the show she finds out that Filbert was the murderer and Fritz never existed. Was the big twist. Yeah.
What?
Was this in episode 1, or were this like, they reveal this like right away in season 2?
I thought this was the season finale.
Yeah, it's not clear how much they filmed, right? Because it's the passage of time is very, very surreal in the episode. But yeah, I don't know. I think these are good twists for filming.
Yeah.
Considering Diane had to like tell him to make Fritz a ghost in season 1, I think Flip has a better handle on things here. I feel like I would love these twists, but yeah, it's not even like important. Yeah, it's and they're just frames within this sequence of the intertwining scenes here, and the note turns out to be marketing for the show, but then in the show, Filbert sent the note as that further helps with BoJack not understanding what's real, as the tie-in is right from the show, and they both and then in both BoJack lashes back out at Gina, and then Justin in the show scene he's strangling her. Yeah, and I guess it's like not. Yeah, I love the way like that on first watch it like stands out how this is like just this huge shocking moment, but it's like not even clear because they're cutting back and forth, and like I love how it leads into this basically, in that like you're getting a sense in BoJack's head of how we're getting to this point of everything so similar and paralleling each other, and it's just very much from BoJack's perspective of losing touch, and yeah, it's just like a brutal sequence with the strangling there, and there's just like so long before anyone intervenes.
Oh my gosh, that was the like worst part for me, was that everyone's like, yeah, he's really going at it, like he's doing such a great job, and they're like, this is a little excessive, we should yell cut, and then they yell cut, and then they're like, hey, like he hasn't stopped yet, and I'm like, what are you people doing? Like, go stop him. This clearly isn't okay.
Yeah, it's rough, but I also think it's like realistic. Like I just think that Flip says turn on the camera. Oh my god, Flip! Like so.
That's right. He does say turn on the camera.
It's brutal. But yeah, that's it. And then we go right into him walking up the staircase that we cut to a few times. And
I thought that was going to show he was going to die.
Right, you're like, is this him dying? But no, it's a staircase up to the balloon, which is his yes, now we've arrived back at my former shitty self, and destructive BoJack hurts people around him. BoJack is back fully, and the balloon is here, and that's the end of the episode. So yeah, I think the episode just is so incredible at the end. I think as with a lot of these 11s, and it really gets there, and I think it's really powerful. Yeah.
I think so too.
Cool. Yeah. Let's interestingly outlined much shorter for that one than the Stop show. I guess Showstopper is very focused on BoJack and everything that's happening there. Stop show, we have a bunch of storylines to cut to, but let's go high level through kind of everything that's happening. We're start off with productions in strangle hiatus, as Mr. Peanut Butter says later.
So inappropriate.
This episode has so many one-liners like that, and I love them all.
That isn't even funny.
It's very funny.
It's really funny.
Oh my god.
It's very funny.
Wow, okay, you two. You just live in that little bubble.
Enjoy that moment.
There's a video of the strangling. Princess Carolyn's dealing with that, and then also Sadie now wants her to have the baby and then Mr. Peanut Butter goes talk to we're cutting very quickly, I think, in the beginning between all this stuff. Mr. Peanut Butter goes talk to Diane about them hooking up earlier, and then they again do that, and we get the Diane garbage fire speech as April reference. She says she always feels like that. Mr. Peanut Butter currently feels like that because of what's going on with them, but then Mr. Peanut Butter wants to get back together,
and Diane does not.
Yeah.
And that was it wasn't that shocking, honestly, though. Like, just because, especially like with the whole lead up of like Diane being, like, saying like how like she's a terrible person and she knows she is and she feels that way and she knows what she's doing is wrong. And then when Mr. Peanut Butter's like, oh, it's fine, like I'll break up with Pickles and then we can get back together, and she's like, no, that's not what I want. Like, that's not what I'm asking you to do. Like, so I also what is it? I thought it was interesting that like Mr. Peanut Butter, that's what he like went back to. He's like, yeah, we'll get back together. I never stopped loving you. And it's like,
yeah. Well, we'll get into Mr. Peanut Butter being terrible some more.
Oh gosh, he is.
BoJack doesn't remember the strangling, and Princess Carolyn wants him to do this interview, and Biscuits Braxby. He sees the video. Diane is talking with Stefani, who wants Diane to be the face of Girl Crush Video. Stefani says she's holding Diane's holding everyone to an impossible standard, including yourself. Very poignant for a speech from Stefani. I love that character can just be really smart and deep and go into nonsense very quickly.
I thought you were calling her Stefani for a second.
Her.
Stefani, yeah.
Oh,
I know that's her name, but like I was like,
very similar to Steven Universe Stefani. And then there's like, we should be more forgiving of ourselves and people around us. So we shouldn't publish so many takedowns. Oh, Diane, I thought that was very funny too.
Yeah.
We have one of my favorite comedic moments of the season with Tracy and Stuart. Everyone's favorite characters, Tracy and Stuart. We revealed that they're long lost twins, and they both have half of a medallion, and they're none the wiser at the end of the scene.
What did Stuart say? He said like everyone has a medallion like that around their neck.
Who is also a long lost twin, but you don't see me showing it off to everyone.
These are like the two stupidest characters, and it's wonderful. This culmination. This actually feels like a culmination, despite these two characters being nothing. It's also a great parody of these types of twists in shows. This is like maybe one of my top 3 funniest moments of the season, along with the time's up later in this episode. The third one would be Officer Meow Meow Fuzzy Face, by the way, in episode 9 with the drug bust. We get this line from Tracy, which I want to, I guess, reference later. Not every woman is supposed to be a mother. Maybe you'd be happier if you freed yourself from that expectation and just lived your life and lived the life you'd rather clearly be living. You'd clearly rather be living. Yeah. That being juxtaposed with her adopting the baby at the end, I think is we don't get a lot in between that. I think it's very prominent. That contrast. I guess we'll get back to that. So then we have the interview and Gina, some brutal stuff from Gina. Gina doesn't want BoJack to tell the truth about it in the interview. She says, and all that goes away if I'm just the girl that got choked by BoJack Horseman. I don't want you to be the most notable thing that ever happened to me. I think this scene is like really fantastic. And those two lines, the actual manifestation of the consequences on the BoJack's victims that he said probably forgot about it in episode 10 when he's talking with Diane. He's like, I'm the one who's been hurt the most by BoJack Horseman. And I think we're seeing here with Gina in the scene that is absolutely not the case. And I love this. This is like everything being thrown in BoJack's face. Or it's also just like a brutal commentary on societal power dynamics and how this like would realistically play out, I think.
I think so too. It's like the most honest moment of this episode is whenever she tells him that, because that's so true. Like if he went out and said like, oh no, actually I was choking her, like that would be it. Like that would be the end of her career. Like, she would no longer be, like, Gina, the rising star from Filbert. She would be the girl who got choked by BoJack Horseman. Like, all of her, like, fame and everything that she had, like, been working towards would just disappear like that in an instant. And it's also very powerful because she says, like, I don't want you to be the most notable thing that ever happened to me. Because so much, like, with girls is that our accomplishments get, like, tied into like a male. So like I one of the things that like I personally always get offended by is whenever people like are getting married or they get engaged and they're like, oh, like I'm so proud of you, and it's like, for what? Like because I found love? Like, why are you proud of me? Because there's now a man who will forever be in my life until we sign divorce papers? Like, what does that even mean? So why do I have to be defined by like my partner?
Yeah, I think that's great. And yeah, I think the whole scene is commenting on stuff like that, right? In like pretty short amount of time, and it's just really I think powerful in that regard. And the subsequent interview also just so brutal with sometimes you do want to strangle each other, and then she's like strangling
strangling him.
That's tough. And then are you guys dating now? And forces them to kiss. Like, oh my god. The episode doesn't really focus on it, but Biscuits in this scene is like really bad. Like, she's just horrible. Yeah. Okay, cut to very weird contrast. Cut to our Time's Up sequence with Henry Fondle.
Yeah,
it goes right into it. Yeah, so we talked a lot in a recap podcast. I don't think feelings mostly would have changed. I think this is surface level enough that we could have gotten into the deep analysis right away with Sam's more thinks the show is maybe minimizing what's going on. I'm more into the surrealist type humor here. But definitely acknowledging that both factors into the scene. I guess we can get into the specifics into the recap here, and we get this insufficient power line with the woman going into him. He says all these lines, and she's like, oh, what? And then Henry Fondle is running out of power, and that's what gets her to go to the reporter. And then we have these commentaries in the news. At the time, I just thought it was typical corporate banter, but now I'm like, I think there's like all these great lines that are generally general satire of like sexual harassment in the Time's Up movement. And but now I'm worried the pendulum's going to swing too far in the other extreme, where they're going to be held accountable for that behavior, and that's not ideal either, says the guy that's being interviewed.
Yeah.
What time is it right now? Is just going back to being just a time site. This is a great day for women of this company, many of whom will be laid off. And then after the executive coming up to give wants Henry Fondle to work at their giant corporation too. A lot of like really on the nose satire, but it didn't like play as well on third viewing, I feel like, of this episode, but just this stupid sex robot being their general commentary on Time's Up, I think, is just so brilliant. And it's just like this huge comedic culmination of what feels like a lot in the show. Really, Henry Fondle's only introduced in episode 9. So it's only been 4 episodes here, but he's I don't know. I love Henry Fondle. I think this is one of the best gags the show has ever done. I've made on our Discord, I made this hot take. Henry Fondle, better than Vincent Adultman.
Wow.
I disagree.
In terms of stupid gag side character, like there's a similar role. Every time Henry Fondle says a stupid sex phrase with Todd's voice, I just died. Like, this is, I love this robot. I can't believe he was put down by Todd at the end of Mice and Men style. I could not, I'll be mourning Henry Fondle.
They're very close still, Vincent Adultman and Henry Fondle. I don't know. They're really close.
I can't be friends with Dylan anymore.
Wow. I'm sorry. I appreciate the comedic sex robot, Sam. Jeez.
Do you not like him at all, Sam?
No.
Well,
I like
he's
him
incredible.
So much.
He's not funny.
So much second.
Well, he's not trying to be funny. He's trying to be sexy. That's true.
Fails at both.
Damn it, Dylan.
He definitely is not sexy. That's for sure. But yeah, okay. We don't need to get too much in Henry Fondle, but yeah, there's all these amazing one-liners.
Oh my god.
Okay. The show is canceled because of Henry Fondle network folding. We get this moment from Flip. Unless I was Princess Caroline the whole time. Fish.
That was funny. I like Rami Malek doing that.
That was good. Yeah.
Oh, fish.
Yeah, there's in an episode of kind of random stuff. This felt the most random and weird. I feel like that line from him, puts on the makeup or the lipstick. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, that was really weird. I forgot that he did that.
Yeah, I forgot too.
I feel like that's even more random than the Stewart and Tracy stuff, but I like it as a send off to Flip. Probably, I don't think we'll be seeing Flip again next season. Probably not.
We should.
He was great. He was great though.
Maybe like a one-off, like random episode. He just makes a cameo.
Yeah, he could come back. The director came back in like a few episodes.
The director, she has a name, Dylan.
Yeah, I'm blanking on her name. That's why. That's why I said it like that. Kelsey,
so did Anna this season.
Kelsey, Anna, that's true. Anna came back after this. Yeah, Kelsey much better than the Flip, but Flip's still good too. I think these are good comparisons between the side characters of the show. He flips the Kelsey of the season, right? The most prominent, new side character. And then, Henry Fondle is the clown dentist / Vincent Adultman. I don't know, it's Vincent Adultman isn't a Todd invention, but similar role on the show.
Vincent Adultman is beautiful and pure, and don't compare him to any of Todd's dumb shit.
Oh, don't compare these 3 children to a sex robot? That's weird.
Yes!
That's weird.
Yes!
That's weird. Oh, okay. I can see how that would be weird.
I feel like that's inappropriate.
It does seem inappropriate.
Children. Vincent Adultman's an adult.
Oh, yeah. It's not 3 kids.
Oh, yeah,
what
that's
are we
right.
and I love in the scene of Mice and Men scene when Todd is putting him down, where you see the Henry Fondle. The only time he ever repeats a line, he says, "I love it when you call me father," which we got in his first episode. In a different context here. It's so wonderful.
You know that he's a speak and spell, right?
He can what?
He's a speak and spell.
What's that?
You don't know what a speak and spell?
I don't either.
What's a speak and spell?
God damn it, I have to fucking look this up for you. A speak and spell is a toy. Remember Toy Story? There was a speak and spell in that. That is also
yeah.
Yeah, it was to help kids learn how to like spell.
Yeah, so you're saying he's a phrase box and he's going to repeat the same phrases. Todd, credit to Todd who installed like hundreds of phrases in Henry Fondle, because he had, except for that one, he did not repeat any of them. So there must have been a lot in his programming there.
I'm impressed. Todd did a lot of research.
As Todd said, it's impressive that is the first time he made a robot, and he did this. It was good. Okay. BoJack, so in the meat of the episode here at the end, BoJack goes to Diane, and they have a whole conversation here where he says, "Can I still be a better person?" And Diane does think so, and says that there's she gets in their speech about there's no good guys or bad guys, just do good and bad things, and we need to hold ourselves accountable. No one's going to do that. Those are my highlights of that speech. And then I guess we can get to the other stuff later, because at the end, Diane takes BoJack to rehab, and the highlights of this speech then outside of the rehab place. So they're not going to suddenly make you not an asshole. And she says you can do things the way you've been doing them your entire life, and have not been successful, or you can see what these guys have to offer. And Diane gets into this like speech about her friend in school and how she's here for BoJack because he's her best friend and he needs her.
Even though he was an asshole to her.
Yeah. Sam, what are your feelings about the Diane and BoJack friendship at the end of this episode?
There's just so much happening. And Diane at least has enough savvy to realize that the relationship is very toxic and isn't good, and it isn't something that either of them should really be in. But, they're best friends and they love each other. And it makes me sad when that sort of shit happens, because it's like, okay, you meet people throughout your life and you spend a lot of time with those people and you get really close to them, but then you're not close with them anymore and shit happens. But they're still like that really important part of a specific time in your life. And I think that's what is happening with Diane and BoJack right now. It's like Diane is the reason why BoJack is going to rehab, and that's going to be on BoJack's life forever. She's going to always be associated with that no matter what. No matter, if they don't talk anymore, no matter if they stay best friends, no matter if their relationship escalates. And I don't know, it touches me in a deep way that I feel at the bottom of my heart. But it also makes me very sad that the nature of human relationships, or human and horse relationships, changes and evolves or adapts to different situations.
Wow, that was deep. Yeah.
Was it? I always don't think what I say is smart.
No, it was deep. I think there's a lot of emotions with Diane and BoJack at the end. I feel like this is like the most we've gotten the impression that they're still like close, and like the guy calls him her best friend. Like I think that's kind of almost even kind of surprising that they're this close even at this point.
Even despite everything.
Yeah.
It's also, I was gonna say, it's really interesting. That's a lot of, I guess, responsibility to sort of take upon yourself to take a friend to like rehab, because like there's always the risk of serious fallout, because like what if, BoJack does go to rehab, or I mean he's obviously at rehab, but like he comes out of it and he isn't better. like then that becomes like sometimes and often it becomes like, well, that's Diane's fault. Like she took me to this place and it didn't help me. Like she didn't help me get better. Like if anything, like, you know, sometimes people like whenever they go through that, like they come out of rehab and it's like they're worse off. And so it's a very like serious risk of Diane to do that, especially considering like the fact that she calls BoJack her best friend. And it's it almost felt like out of place considering like all season it seems like they haven't been friends at all. Like she only took up the job to try and see like that it's not okay to be an asshole, but then she ended up making him more relatable. And then the entire time, like she was giving him trouble about, I mean, I guess it came from a good place because she wanted to know what was going on with him, but they didn't talk about anything. So I don't know, just it's a very strange like relationship, especially for one to be considered like your best.
Yeah, it's especially given this whole sequence, this whole plot of Diane and the tape, this arc this season. She's just so mad at him the whole season, and then is like here for him at the end. It's very striking. Okay, here's my hot take, Sam.
What's your hot take?
I want to see how you react to this. I love Diane in this episode, and I not only to the extent where I think this is the best Diane episode of the series.
Is that a hot take?
I don't even. That's not that hot of a take.
I mean, like I think the Diane character work here is better than episode 2. Like I guess that's, and there's not a lot of Diane episodes,
easily.
right? But here's everything. It really like hits for me where Diane's character's at. This is a character I've had a lot of trouble like kind of understanding like what her arc is and role in the show. She's a little sidelined a lot of the time. And these speeches she gives BoJack at the end, especially when she talks about there's no good guys, there's no bad guys. And her stuff about holding everyone to an impossible standard earlier in the episode with Stefani. There's like a lot of Diane character moments here, and I feel like I have a sense of where she's at now in this season, which is that she's kind of like trying to like find where she is in life right now, and she just has this like worldview where even this. Like BoJack, this terrible person next to her, it's not this terrible person. There's no good people, no bad people. Everyone's just kind of making these like self-destructive choices, including herself. And we don't know if we're right and living life the right way. And she's just dealing with that knowledge and perspective that she has given what she's gone through, and just trying to figure out what the right way for her is to live life. That's my read on Diane's arc going. And I like the season doesn't help you. The season doesn't help you out with Diane driving off here. There's no overt thematic commentary that it's making. So you have to have this kind of sense when we get the sequence of her driving through the tunnel at the end of like, what is going on for her. And I do think it's like, this is maybe Diane turning over a new leaf in her life and like finding like her place to a certain extent. I think she's just a little bit aimless this season definitely for sure. You know, she's randomly flying to Vietnam. She's like working on the show and then not, and she's in this like shitty apartment. And I think that sequence of her driving off does work a lot better if some of this thematic stuff hits home as it did for me on most recent watch this episode. What do you think? What do you think, Sam, of that interpretation of Diane's arc this season?
I think that's a good take, Dylan. Good job for you.
Oh, thank you.
I agree with it. I definitely agree that this is sort of Diane wandering aimlessly, trying to figure out everything in life, and that's just how life is sometimes for everybody all the time.
Yeah, and I think it goes further than this. I think that Diane is representative of everyone's themes in this finale here. This is what I said with we're all just making self-destructive choices, and we don't know if they're right. I think this applies to every single character here. So let's go through with Princess Caroline. She ends up having the baby, takes the baby, Untitled Princess Caroline Project. This is her new porcupine baby. Smash cut to earlier of I already forget her name because she's so inconsequential, but saying that maybe not every woman is supposed to be a mother, Tracy.
Wow, you don't remember what's her face?
I know what's her face, Tracy.
She was your favorite.
I know, yeah. She's my favorite. Yeah, no, Stefani's my favorite. Tracy is second favorite. Yeah, not right. So it's like, not is this even right for you? And then she's having the baby. Like, is this right for Princess Carolyn? We're not given answers. We're given very little. And I think that ties into, is this the right thing for us? Is this the right thing to do? We don't know. And kind of the Mr. Peanut Butter. He's cheating on Pickles. He can't deal with that. He can't deal with telling her. So instead he proposes to her. Is this a self-destructive choice? Is this the right thing for him to be doing? I mean, we think no, but like, it's just, is it right for BoJack to be going to rehab? We're all just doing these things, these self-sabotaging things. And, we're just having we're wandering, aimless blindly through life, really. Just kind of trying to figure out, what may or may not be right for us. Yeah. And I think that's where every single character is in this finale.
Deep.
Yeah, and I think that was really successful for me, the show, portraying it all at the end with all these plot lines intersecting.
I think it would have been slightly better if, like, after Diane had given that speech, is if she had, because the thing that gets me is, like, she talks about, like, accountability and making good or bad choices, but it's funny because she seems to be trying to hold, like, everyone else accountable except herself. And so I think that speech would have hit a lot harder for me is if she afterwards she had driven and gone to see like Pickles and told Pickles like what was going on between her and Mr. Peanut Butter, because there's like a big, thing where she's pressuring Mr. Peanut Butter. She's like, you have to tell Pickles. And it's like, you're just as much in the wrong as he is in this situation. Why don't you go tell Pickles? Because it's obviously like a super shitty thing for both of them to be doing, but like, it's not just Mr. Peanut Butter who's doing the bad thing. You're also doing it too, Diane. And I think that would have, like, her speech just would have hit so much harder for me if that's where she had driven off to, was to go see Pickles and to go, or at least, anything, but she doesn't really do that. And so I can't find that closure with her in this season. So maybe if like they start off the next season with her like admitting it, especially after she finds out that they're engaged now. But I kind of like lost a lot of respect for Diane whenever, because she's trying to get Mr. Peanut Butter to do the right thing. And it's, you do the right thing too. Like,
yeah. Okay, I see what you mean. Personally, I definitely don't agree it's as much Diane's fault as Mr. Peanut Butter. I think it's way more Mr. Peanut Butter's fault. But I think old Diane might have done that. I think old Diane might have gone to Pickles and told her what's up. But I think when you talked about that, I thought of this theme with Stefani earlier in the episode with Stefani tells her we should be more forgiving of ourselves and people around us. Diane just wants to hold everyone accountable and to a higher standard. But then at the end of the episode, this is kind of like jaded, cynical Diane who says, just, it's no bad people. Everyone does shitty things. So I think she'd be like, okay, if they're happy, they live their life. Like, I don't think Diane feels that's her responsibility here, given what she was saying at the end. Which I think is an interesting place for her to be at. I don't know if I'm interpreting that correctly, but we'll see how that plays next season, because Pickle's still seemingly a factor here heading into our season 6. Let's talk about Mr. Peanut Butter with his proposal to Pickles in an episode of people doing questionable things. I feel like this is the shit stands out as the shittiest thing. BoJack at least trying to get help, even though he did the shittiest thing of the season with the strangling. Mr. Peanut Butter seemingly is not going to be held accountable. He is the manifestation of Diane saying no one's going to hold people anyone accountable. I'm just very, very, was very angry at Mr. Peanut Butter after this first viewing. Just the season really leans into him being shitty in a way that we've never done with the show before. It's very striking.
I think this is the best example of the show comparing and contrasting Mr. Peanut Butter and BoJack, because the show, like, it kind of makes a joke out of it all the time, but this is the first time we've really seen BoJack taking responsibility for something he's done, and Mr. Peanut Butter just absolutely not. And they're not the same situation, but they're similar strokes here. Mr. Peanut Butter did something bad, BoJack did something much worse, but he did something bad too. And they're reacting in very different ways. And it's very interesting seeing that. And despite hating Mr. Peanut Butter in this moment, I'm excited to see how we're going to be portraying him in the next season. I'm actually really excited to see that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I had commentary about this BoJack Mr. Peanut Butter parallel. I agree that the show has done it generally, but I think specifically this season, it's been really interesting seeing Mr. Peanut Butter in the BoJackian type role of just being shitty to people around him. And we see earlier in the season, again referencing this episode 1 speech by Princess Carolyn, tells BoJack be the guy that everyone likes on set, and then just be the shitty person when you're acting. And it's like he's trying to be Mr. Peanut Butter. We see that when they're like competing for like the crew's affections or something, unintentionally, of course, from Mr. Peanut Butter. So it feels like Mr. Peanut Butter is the guy that Princess Carolyn is telling BoJack to be. I feel like that is the guy BoJack does want to be, the guy that is nice to everyone and doesn't do these shitty things. And yet Mr. Peanut Butter also is doing the shitty things. He is this really generally likable person, but that doesn't prevent him from also being a horrible human being and just taking this really selfish and horrible action of proposing the pickles. So really, this person I think BoJack was trying to be is not even all that better.
I think it's funny too because there's like that whole episode where the B plot is Mr. Peanut Butter trying to prove that he's a terrible, like he can be a bad boy, you know, like he's not all just good, and like because he's trying to get the role for Fritz or whatever. And so it's just funny because it's like, oh, but you're still a bad person, just in a different way, Mr. Peanut Butter, which we like then discover later on. But it's kind of funny that like there's literally a whole B plot about him trying to be a bad person, and it's like all this entire time you like reveal.
Yeah. I think like this is like the show pulling back the curtain on this character. It's been really restrained, I feel like, in not doing this with Mr. Peanut Butter earlier, and then between this episode and Mr. Peanut Butter's booze, it's really prominent. I think overall, this is the most successful Mr. Peanut Butter season for me. Him in the season. I also think, given my view of Diane at the end of the season, I think this is the best Diane season probably of the show. It could be the best Princess Carolyn season. I don't know. She didn't have a ton to do, but she had that one really incredible episode. And I think like in terms of cohesive season long arc, I think it's the best BoJack season, as the character. BoJack the character, like, he just has the most defined, complete arc to me, I feel like here. So, I don't know. That's a lot going for it. I definitely think the season's better than season 4 in retrospect. I think it beats last season, and I think it's up there with season 3. I'm not sure which is better, but it definitely could be the best season of the show. So I'm just really happy with it looking back. Sam, final thoughts on the episodes and your take on the season as a whole.
Hold on. I have one thing to say before I get into that.
Okay.
I just noticed the title of Mr. Peanut Butter's booze.
Yes. we went into this on that podcast.
We talked about it.
It refers to his girlfriends, and that's
And also, it's Halloween.
It's one of the better puns the show has made. It's like
I just got it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's that one's a thinker, as Mr. Peanut Butter.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, thoughts on these 2 episodes and the season as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Yes, correct. That is the question.
Right,
yes.
Sorry, I forget things. These 2 episodes, great, beautiful, wonderful, love them. I don't know. I think season 5 was probably one of the strongest seasons on the whole. Whereas I've thought probably in the past, maybe season 2 or 3 was. I think season 5 was much better put together in terms of, the narrative structure of the whole entire season, the template that we're going by of, BoJack's shooting a thing. Or in season 3 case, BoJack's doing promotion. So I thought it did really well on a narrative sense, and everybody had a really interesting arc. I don't want to say great, but everybody's arcs were interesting, and of course Diane's my girl, and I love her, and I thought she had a great season. And I just wish everything would turn out okay for everybody, because I love them, and I don't want anybody to be sad anymore.
Yeah, that's next season. Everyone's happy ending, right?
I think that's why people make fan fiction. So maybe I'll read
BoJack fan fiction. Okay.
Yeah, like that's kind of a weird thing to seek fan fiction out for, and I'm not sure if I want to do that, but I will.
That's the only place you're getting your happiness. Yeah, definitely not in. in the show, as commented on by episode 6. Yeah. Okay. April, final thoughts on that 2 episodes and the season as a whole.
Like I already said, I think these 2 episodes, just because they play so well into each other, are 2 of my favorite episodes of this season. I do agree that the season is very strong, and there's better character arcs, especially for some of like our I want to like say minor characters, but only because like BoJack is obviously like the main character, and so I think they had better arcs this season than they have in any other season. And I agree, between like season 3 and season 5, it's really a toss up. Now I'm like, oh, I need to rewatch season 3.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think season 3 has like better top tier episodes, but season 5 is like better as a whole, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Like, there's a lot of really good episodes in season 3, but like season 5 as a whole makes a whole lot of sense and I think that's what makes it such a strong season too, is because like a lot of, not a lot, but like there are a few episodes that really like I don't remember of this season, but again, I don't think BoJack's a really good show to binge, and I'm glad that like with my first watch, I don't think I binged it. I think I watched it like episode by episode. Like I'd watch maybe 1 or 2 and then like come back to it a few days later. And then like upon binging it, I was like, okay, like I think it's better to watch it that way versus like binging it all at once and then like taking your time with each episode, because I think I would have missed out on a whole lot more than I did this time. Even with like the episodes where I'm like, oh yeah, that happened, I forgot. Like so
yeah. All right, cool, nice stuff. Andy, last takes on these 2 episodes and the season as a whole.
I really like this season. Like you guys were saying, I really think that as a whole, this season 5 is better than season 3. I agree with that. I do think season 3 has better episodes, and has a couple better episodes than season 5 has better episodes. But season 5 just is such a great cohesive unit. And looking back, having rewatched the episodes for this whole podcast, these podcasts, I really, looking back as a unit, it really feels like they walked into a room and said, let's write a season just about responsibility. Let's see, and each of the characters in this season really are tied by that theme the entire time, and they stick with it. The responsibility we have towards our loved ones, the responsibility we have towards our friends, the responsibility we have towards the people around us and to ourselves. And it's just everybody in the show is dealing with a different facet of that at different times. Sometimes those things cross over, where Mr. Peanut Butter is dealing with the responsibility he has towards his past loved ones, and Diana's dealing with the responsibility she has towards Mr. Peanut Butter. Like those kind of cross over at times. But other times we're dealing with like completely unique things, and like Princess Carolyn's dealing with the responsibility of having a kid while juggling a career. And it's just these themes really run, like just mesh together really well, and they just really stuck with just that. They didn't. There were a couple little side things going on, like with Todd, but they really wanted to just stick with that one idea, and it just pays off so well because the whole season just it just works so well. It just does. I don't know what else to say besides that. I really like the season. It's really good.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about Todd in the evaluations of all the characters.
Yeah.
As is one to do. I think it could be the best Todd season as well, because I think
it is the best Todd season.
Yeah.
Because the asexual stuff at the beginning of the season, and then I think Henry Fondle is one of Todd's most successful zany plot lines. So I think altogether,
actually, I think now that I've said that, I think Todd does have a moment like that at the beginning where he shows responsibility towards his loved ones by saying like, yeah, we don't actually love each other, to Yolanda. Like that's going into the themes of this season. I think it's really great. But then he goes going back to being absurd again immediately after that.
I felt like a lot stronger this season than he was like last season. I think, what is it, like the whole Henry Fondle thing is just great for him.
Well, yeah, lack of clown dentists, even though we reference clown dentists.
That's great.
All right. Okay. So between Henry Fondle and clown dentist,
you'll take Henry Fondle, right?
I will take Henry Fondle over clown dentist.
That's not a high bar, though.
Oh God.
Because Henry Fondle doesn't turn into a zombie.
Oh fuck!
What if we get zombie Henry Fondle next season?
How did not get Yolanda's parents interacting with Henry Fondle at all?
I know. Well, those are two like absurdist concepts born out of this parody commentary on like asexual versus like sex and like by the way, just the show going there in terms of having like commentary and like like absurdist humorous moments in reference to Todd being asexual, I think is just really progressive on its own right. Even if it like seems diminishing or zany or stuff, like I think it's like really progressive that it's a huge part of the show, and like we're making like jokes about it like we do everything else with BoJack Horseman. I think that's another really strong part of the season that shouldn't be minimized as well.
I think that Henry Fondle might be Todd's best plot.
We should that
not plot like zany thing.
Yeah, I think it's that. I think it's that or a Halloween store in January.
All right, yeah, Halloween store was up there. January. I'm going back and I'm thinking about the improv stuff was just terrible. Not Disneyland, that's Banksy. Disneyland was awful. Everything Todd has done has been awful, but this...
Yeah, Todd's had a lot of stupid plot lines.
But Andrew Garfield walking into the Halloween store is the best thing Todd's ever done.
Andrew Garfield walking is maybe still the funniest moment of the show.
The Halloween store thing, didn't that like go on for like 2 seasons almost?
It went into season 2, I think.
Yes, which is great.
Because Sarah Lynn was dating Andrew Garfield and it had to pay off.
And then he gets trapped in
Yeah, that's I need to rewatch earlier seasons just for that. Yeah, okay. Great stuff on these episodes and the season. Thanks everyone for listening to our coverage of the season 5 of BoJack. Thanks to everyone being on it. Alex for hosting a few podcasts as well, and I think great to have coverage of this remarkable season. Subscribe if you want to. I guess probably next thing in your BoJack feed would be our year-end awards. When we get to that, I'm certainly BoJack will be in consideration.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't voted, so I don't know if it's going to be true.
It's only October, fam.
That's
Look, it's 2 months away. Really, we gotta start thinking about it now.
That long. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You
don't release your end of the year lists in October, bro.
Well, I'll just say, I think for me, best show of the year is between BoJack and Steven Universe, and I think it's kind of a toss up in my mind right now. Both have an incredibly strong seasons. Two of the best shows on TV.
Steven Universe even anymore?
Yeah, we haven't seen an episode.
Who is that?
I don't know who that is. Who is she?
Steven Universe? What?
Yeah. And they still haven't aired that one episode on TV yet.
On TV, Steven Universe has an episode that aired online and not on TV. Yeah. Anyway, you should. BoJack fans should watch Steven Universe. If you're someone who watches BoJack and Rick and Morty, I would also recommend watching Steven Universe in order to complete the 3 best animated shows on TV, like the top tier of shows. Anyway, we cover other stuff like Steven Universe. Find all that at overlyanimated.com. Subscribe to our main iTunes feed or our youtube.com/overlyanimated to not miss any of our podcasts. If you listen to our season long coverage of BoJack, maybe consider supporting us on Patreon. I think you'd be a good candidate to be a patron and interact with us on Discord. You get a Patreon rank on our Discord, overlyanimated.com/Discord, or you get a patron nickname and other rewards. Find all that at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thank you very much to all of our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Michael, aka Mickey, and thanks as always to our patron executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, and Hugh. Other podcasts on other non-BoJack things coming out, so find all that at overlyanimated.com. Thanks for listening, guys. We will see you next time. Bye.
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 Bye.